We're happy to see the sea of white. We're here to celebrate Bobby's life. I am Alan, Bobby's brother. You can't hear? First time in my life, someone said it. I will try my best. How's that now? Okay. My goal was to live a life interesting to me and useful to others. That is what Bobby wrote, and that is how he lived. Today we are celebrating that life. We are dressed in white because Bobby dressed in white because he thought he looked stunning. And he did. But even more beautiful was his soul. Jack, David, and I, and his dear friends Christo, Sally, and Mark, are here to speak about Bobby. Knowing Bobby and knowing his family and friends, there are many of you who could speak about Bobby, and we are just your representatives. As his brother, he will always be Bobby to me. I recognize that he's Robert to many of you, and he became Bobby Robert to break the tie. Now, in our house, if he was ever called Robert, that meant he was in deep trouble. The name Bobby was permanently engraved for us when he became Uncle Bobby. To our children, to our nieces, to our nephews, and then to our grandnieces and grandnephews. He was always Uncle Bobby, so he was always Bobby to me. Bobby played a unique role in our family. He was a beloved son, brother, uncle, great-uncle, cousin, nephew, and brother-in-law. He was the bridge between generations. He was the bridge within generations. Each of us will miss him deeply and forever. For me personally, and for Beth, and for David, for Adam, for Jen, for Paige, for Matthew and Haley, there'll be a void in our life. On the other hand, we will always think of him. And I always think that someone always lives on if you continue to think of him. So Bobby will always live on for us. Bobby loved his friends, and I see that today. And his friends, in turn, loved him. One of the joys of the last few months was his 65th birthday, which he could share with his family and friends. A special group of friends, his care group, deserves particular acknowledgement today. They provided Bobby with love and support during his final months. It enabled Bobby to live these months as he wished. At home, in peace, thinking positively, and surrounded by love. Thank you. Bobby received love from all of his friends and family up to his last breath. And thankfully, he was aware of it and took strength and comfort from it. Most of you are familiar with the trajectory of Bobby's life. One way to characterize it is set forth in a newspaper article by David Brooks that Bobby kept in a folder on his desk. That article is entitled Tales of the Super Survivors. And that's what Bobby was, a super survivor. Brooks writes that first there is book one, Life Before the Event. The youngest of three boys of Alice and Lou, burdened by having Jack and I as brothers, raised in Englewood, college at the University of Pennsylvania, out and proud, model, muse, taxi driver, actor, dancer, and free spirit. Next, book two, the events that shattered the old story. AIDS, his friends dying around him, and then his own close personal battle with death, which he beat. The best part of book three was that he retained the best parts of book one. He retained his vibrancy, his joie de vivre, his charm, and his caring. Bobby's entire life prepared him to face pancreatic cancer and death. He put his life's lessons and work into that effort. It is not surprising that Bobby exemplified the core principles of Friends Indeed where he lovingly worked with Cy and so many others for so many years. These principles include life is lived in the present moment. The belief that in a human being's resiliency when faced with life-threatening illness, that the quality of life is not determined by your circumstances, that you are the expert in your own life, and that God, as you understand the concept, is alive and well and working in your life. Bobby lived those principles, and we were all proud of the grace, courage, purpose that he lived with in his last months without an ounce of self-pity. In thinking of Bobby the last few months, I keep returning to the lyrics of Bob Dylan's Forever Young. Luckily, I won't sing it to you, but I will read it to you. May God bless and keep you always. May your wishes all come true. May you always do for others and let others do for you. May you build a ladder to the stars and climb on every rung. May you stay forever young. May you grow up to be righteous. May you grow up to be true. May you always know the truth and see the light surrounding you. May you always be courageous. Stand upright and be strong. And may you stay forever young. May your hands always be busy. May your feet always be swift. May you have a strong foundation when the winds of changes shift. May your heart always be joyful. May your song always be sung. And may you stay forever young. Bobby stayed forever young to the last. We are today celebrating the life well lived, and the other speakers will speak in more detail about that life. We are grateful for the extra 20 plus years that Bobby had after surviving AIDS, but there could have been so much more. In a folder on Bobby's desk, there was a one-page typed by him. It's dated September 17th, 2017. It's written much before that future date. It's not a recent writing. It captures Bobby's spirit, hopes, and aspirations. It reads as follows. September 17th, 2017. I am in a villa outside of Breve in Chianti. Finishing the final edits of my memoir. The grief book about losing a pet, Two Sides of the Coin, has recently come out in paperback. I'm looking at an interesting couple of months doing speaking gigs and media around the States and in London on my way home. My contract with Good Morning America is signed to be Sophie, old but enjoying a quiet life, is at the New York apartment with my husband. We have been together for almost 3 years, the best years I've ever had, and married for 3 months. He flew home a few days ago after spending a month here with me. I continue to enjoy spectacular health. My book column, The New 70, will begin. My new column, The New 70, will begin in arc and out simultaneously. First in cross-branding. My workshop with Christo, The New Anti-Gravity Master, is in its second year, and I look forward to leading trainings in Thailand and Bali in the spring. All the members of my family have healed their differences, and we are planning a family vacation at a house on the Cape, which I rented for Thanksgiving week. Gay marriage is fully legal throughout the United States. We're not involved in any wars for the first time in over a decade, and the current president has great hair. I just read it. I maintain a small private practice a mix between face-to-face in New York City and Skype. The men's group continues in small sessions. Life is amazing.
That's Fabio, his segue. He loved Fabio, and we loved making entrances together. And I can honestly say, he would love looking out at this audience right now, and is loving it, because you all look beautiful. And Bobby loved beauty. For those who don't know me, my name is Christopher. He called me Christo. And Bobby was my grounding force and the one who centered me, and I was the wind beneath his wings that gave him permission to fly. And together, we got to do some amazing flying. Now, I had talked to his brother Alan about bringing my anti-gravity troupe here, because I'm known for having people fly through the air. And I had a marching band and everything all set up, but he said that wasn't part of the tradition. But Bobby was not a traditional person. In fact, he was very unconventional. So I'm going to do something unconventional on his behalf. It's in the style of the day. I'm going to do a slightly irreverent rap anthem to commemorate Bobby. How does a sissy Jew boy, third son of a New York cop, who was never told he too could rise up to the top, despite the shackles of history, have such a great destiny, determined to make it, despite being labeled a faggot? Never really great at throwing a ball, rather lanky and tall, sports was not his calling, unless it was bowling or maybe Mary J. rolling. See, no one asked a sissy, hey, how's it going? This hippie son of Alice and Lou had something big he would do, so he packed his bags and away he flew to discover a world known by few. In Spoleto, he's working with Roman Polanski. In the role as Jack the Ripper and on TV with Felicity, discovering his destiny was not to be monogamy. An unconventional life is a creative opportunity. He's Bobby Robert Levithan, an extraordinary man. Few can do what he can. Just be great. Just be great. This native New Yorker child of the 60s stood up to be an activist. You see, he's always standing up for what's right and never one to give in to the fight. Being present in the moment is his craft, in the moment of here and now. Knowing when and how to laugh or to smile and take a bow. He put two and two together and to his critics said, whatever, knowing that he could weather with birds of a feather any storm, any storm. So he learned to cultivate friendship, making those around him feel hip. Became a cultural icon in the film Hair While Dancing with big Jew fro and his own style of prancing. In the 1970s, they were all the rage, and there was no cage to bind and so many men to find. The party was hot. Everyone got it a lot. Here I won't be vague. We became the epicenter of the play. Suddenly, everyone around him was dying. Reagan was quiet, while we all were crying. He wound up in healing circles and crusades. You see, he too found out that he had AIDS. Every other day was spent in funerals so far off the charts they counted in Roman numerals, became a guinea pig for big pharmaceuticals. Watch your friends die and hold on to your testicles. The world became about acting up, fighting a government that was corrupt. Bobby's in the middle, being abrupt so people would know what's up, because he's Bobby Robert Levithan, an extraordinary man. Few can do what he can, just be great. Just be great. He packed his bags and moved to Santa Fe. Perhaps he would slowly just fade away, thinking he'd never get to grow old and gray, another casualty of the tragic day. But he didn't stop learning. Instead, he got a degree. Inside, his body was burning, but his roots were like a tree. Fascinated by humanity, he got his master's in psychology. And then one night when he was dancing with death, waiting for what was sure to be his very last breath, he heard a voice loud and clear. It's not your time to go, my dear. Robert Levithan, you are the chosen queer that people need to hear. You see, there's more you're being asked to do. You'll get to live and see this through. Go back to New York and live your life as though it's new, and the world is going to be inspired by you. You're Bobby Robert Levithan, an extraordinary man. Few can do what you can. Just be great. Just be great. In a stroke of so-called luck, he wins the lottery for the new drugs that made AZT a mockery. Suddenly, he's talking to Charlie Rose on the TV. His viral load is dropped, and there's a rise of Cell's T. A miracle came. Everyone did agree, so he made a quest to help others to see that by staying in the present and not giving up hope, life doesn't have to be a slippery slope. For over 20 years more, he lived his life full, as if each day was his last. That was his rule, treasuring every moment. Life was his school. What happened next? He became cool. Traveling the world to get to know humanity, developing isms and forming a philosophy, a learned man. It's all there in his book, choosing to do whatever it took to fully live, by voraciously living life, dissipating wherever there's strife. His words learned to cut like a knife through life's game and through shame. He helped facilitate groups for those in crisis, living the meaning of friends indeed. Hell, who knows, he could help abolish ISIS with words of peace and plenty of weed. A free-range Buddhist with a long to-do list, an archaeologist of the soul. No room for xenophobes, racists, and ages, with peace as his ultimate goal. A regular on the Huffington Post, running salons in New York City, redefining his age by making the most, getting certified in anti-gravity. On record, he's known as the ethical slut, out to make a true connection, always there to help others out of a rut with optimistic anticipation. Never sporting a twinge of a gut with his Heston smile, but not much of a butt. Size XL, it does beguile, and he always knows what's what. Also known as a sexual ethicist and a radical psychotherapist, one is lucky if they're on his list. Now do you get the gist? The people that surrounded the man formed an odd mix of a clan, a chosen family who knows that they can truly love and aid their fellow man. Because we're with Bobby Robert Levithan, an extraordinary man. With him, we can do what he can. Just be great. Just be great. And now this final verse doesn't have to be the worst. No black hearse to make your heart burst. Bobby knew this first. Death is not a curse. Like the Buddhists, he reminded us to believe that no one dies before their time. So although we miss him, and together we grieve as we listen to this rhyme, the man's life was not in vain. Not a moment did he feign. His body is free from pain, and his legacy will reign. Though not in flesh, the man is always near. Just open your heart, you'll hear. There's nothing left to fear. There is nothing left to fear. One's quality of life is not determined by their circumstance. Be unreasonable. Go ahead, wear white pants in the winter and allow yourself to dance like a twilight muse caught up in a trance. The sissy boy did it, and so can we. Rise above our limitations and all agree on a way for you and me to see a way to be free like the man they call the Bobby. Because we're all Bobby Robert Levithan. Every woman, child, and man. We too can do what he can. It's not too late. Just be great. In his family creed, they say the good die young and the Levithans live forever. A rare breed we immortalize in this song. Bobby Robert, everyone's brother. Before I finish, I need to let you know that I was there for Bobby's last breath. And you need to know that he lived every single moment until that very last. He didn't spend a moment in pity. He didn't spend a moment feeling sorry for himself. He just lived. And because he knew that he had a second lease on life, and he was living in borrowed time, he established a community around him that came together in his time of need. And it was so incredibly beautiful. Alan mentioned it before. The Share the Care group. And he also established a healing circle. These people in the healing circle didn't necessarily even know him, but they were there to heal him. The people in the Share the Care group, we were dear friends who put our things aside to make sure that he died in ease and with dignity. If you don't mind, I really appreciate it if everyone from the Share the Care group and the healing circle would stand up. His life was nothing short of a miracle.
Hi there. My name is Sally Fisher, and some of what I was going to talk about you're going to read here in a slightly different version. Because we each had our own experience of Bobby Robert. In fact, I have a motto that I came along with. Excuse me. Thank you. Now I can start over. Thank you. I have a motto I came up with long ago. And that I try to live by. And I use it to open workshops so that people who are doing those workshops have some idea of what the context we're going to move them through is. You heard part of it. The quality of life is not determined by the circumstances, but by what we do with them. However, sometimes it feels more like a challenge than a motto. And I have to say, lately, that has been true for me. It's been a real challenge to follow my own footsteps, if you know what I mean. When I met Bobby Roberts, which I call him not indicating any means of schizophrenia, but he had managed to combine two sides of himself so perfectly that they flawlessly moved from one to the other. So when I met him, he introduced himself to me as Robert, and that's how he was known to me for years and years and years. But upon meeting him, I also immediately knew, without the blinking of an eye, that we were going to become great friends. What I did not know, and that I had absolutely no idea about, was today. That I would stand here eulogizing my great friend, wishing for more years, yet being so grateful for the time we had and the fullness of how we lived it. Robert was gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous, and very sophisticated. But happily, his Bobby, yet unknown to me by that name, by the way, back in those days, loved to pop out and play. I miss them both. I miss them both deeply. When we lived in Santa Fe, we hung out a lot. We spent a lot of time together. And during that time when he became ill and had pneumocystis, and there was very little in the way of anything the medical people could do about it, I was supposed to leave for Germany. And I really felt that I could not do that, and I was going to cancel the trip. So I called a friend, Mark Matusik, who said to me, "You can't do that." I was like, "Why not?" And he said, "Because if you tell him you're leaving, he'll think he's dying." So, do you remember the days when you could give your airline ticket to someone else? So I called up American Airlines and I said, "I would like to buy a ticket for my husband and to come from wherever you were living at the time to Santa Fe, New Mexico." And she said, "And what is your husband's name?" And I said, "Mark Matusik." And she said, "Well, you don't have the same last name." And I said, "Well, would you give up Fisher for Matusik?" So she let me get the ticket. And I did go to Germany. And Mark came to be with Bobby or Robert, whichever. But also, when we lived in Santa Fe, we began to hang out. We spent a lot of time together, and it was a period in his life where he pretty much only owned white clothing. And it was a period in my life where I pretty much only owned black clothing. Not something you usually saw in the land of turquoise, but the jewelry I managed to get. But we spent a lot of time together, being around and being seen, and literally people called us the man, that guy in the white with the woman in black. That was our name in the community. As Robert, part of Robert, my partner facilitating the New York AIDS Masteries at Friends Indeed, he was an absolute amazing person. He had great perception and a brilliant way to just say in fewer words than I usually could what he wanted to say to whoever the participants were in the workshop. And I must say that he inspired participants to face their demons, to look their fears in the eye, to go deeply inside themselves and determine what their lives could be like should they let go of the things that kept them from having it the way they wanted it. And that was something he did, because he never was willing to ask someone to do something he could not do for himself. During our breaks, however, and it may come as a shock to some of you who've done the workshop, we'd go in the office at Friends Indeed, and we would just begin, of course, to talk about how we could work with each person in the workshop and what might be best and what would be most profound for them to discover about themselves. But because our work together was serious, and we were dealing with serious issues for people, and we brought our best selves into the workshop, we decided at some point early in the process that we would not take ourselves so seriously. So that was when we always had a good time. And he was a dream to work with, an absolute dream. He was knowledgeable, playful, powerful, giving, and he had a great, great smile and an amazing twinkle in his eye. I feel his loss so deeply that it takes my breath away. It takes my breath away in exactly the way that his beauty, spirituality, kindness, sense of humor, and grace did in life. In closing, I want to offer a few quotes that I use as a farewell to our participants and support teams, amazing support teams. You know who you are. And I'm going to use them to memorialize Robert because they seem fitting now, because he loved them, and because they describe him so well. I want to be thoroughly used up when I die, for the harder I work, the more I live. I rejoice in life for its own sake. Life is no brief candle to me, but a splendid torch I've got hold of for the moment, and that I want to make burn as brightly as possible before passing it on to future generations. That was not my statement, that's from George Bernard Shaw. And the other, Goethe. Whatever you can do or dream you can do, begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. Begin it now. Bobby provided the final closing. Not Robert, but Bobby. He got everyone present into a circle, and they were asked to hold hands with the people next to them. And it was not just the participants, it was also our wonderful, amazing support teams and other leaders and whoever dropped in. And we'd get in this huge circle, and he would lead this chant. Rub-a-dub-dub. Thanks for the love. Yay, God! So Crisco suggested that we do that. So I'm not going to ask you all to stand up, but I think it would be lovely if you hold hands with the person next to you. Great. And again, it's rub-a-dub-dub. Thanks for the love. Yay, God. So let's do it. 1, 2, 3. Rub-a-dub-dub. Thanks for the love. Yay, God.
Hello, I'm Mark Matusik. Robert once said to me that more than anything, he wanted to be an artist. But if that wasn't going to be his path, he was going to make his life a work of art. And that is truly what he did. From the time he was a boy, he invested all the imagination, the originality, and the passion that an artist brings to his work to the creation of his own life and the character he wanted to play in the world. He brought the same values that an artist uses to how he approached his existence: a deep love of beauty, a dedication to truth, an obsession with detail, and a never-ending desire to grow, remain curious, open, and fresh. Robert's determination to keep surprising himself only intensified as he got older. When I met him, he was full of fear, like we all are when we're young, the self-doubt and the need for approval. But that changed dramatically when he went into the hospital in 1994. He said to me then that he was going to live full out from then on, like even more of an artist, and not waste a minute. And as everyone here knows, that's exactly what he did. He grabbed his life with both hands. He stopped caring what people thought about him. Things he wouldn't have dreamed of doing at 25 became every day at 45, and by 65, he was more free than ever before. His urgent vitality was contagious, and his virtues were often humbling. Robert was the kindest, most non-judgmental, fair-minded, and loyal person I have ever known. He had a tremendous heart. He was temperamentally incapable of holding a grudge and had great steadfastness. He cared about life and living and walking the talk and not being small-minded and not forgetting that every single day was a gift. The day after his last diagnosis, he flew to Brazil and went horseback riding on the beach. When I asked him about the pain of flying, he said, "I may be in pain for the rest of my life." I've never seen anyone face the end with more dignity or grace without a trace of self-pity or fear. The only thing he feared was not having lived, not making his life into the work of art he always dreamed that it could be. But he did. Unforgettably. He was my best friend for 35 years, the person you really wanted in your corner. the person who really never let you down, and I will miss him very much.
Hi, I'm David, Bobby's nephew, the other gay Levithan. What my dad said was absolutely true. Bobby was the bridge between generations, not just for me, for my cousins, for my brother, for my friends, and for all of his friends closer in my generation than his. There were absolutely times where I thought the way things were going, I would wake up one morning and discover that I was in fact older than him. Somehow managed to stay forever young. I looked for the portrait when we were in his apartment. I didn't find it. And it's just pretty incredible to have had him in my life and our life. So I was asked to do a reading. I'm going to read two things. The first, as was mentioned, we had this amazing 65th birthday party at Robin and David's house for Bobby. That was great. That's his whole life seemed to be there. And so I wrote him a poem, and have since revised it, but I was very happy he got to read it. So this is a poem from my uncle on his 65th birthday. We talk about following in footsteps in terms that might lead you to believe that life draws us one of those tango diagrams, as if we can look back and see the exact path taken, as if we can look forward and find everyone else's trail. Not so, of course, or at least not so easy. Unless the people are walking right in front of us, hi Dad, my mom, we often don't know which trails we're following until we pause at a destination and try to figure out the path. To understand all the people who rounded the corners and navigated the twists before we did, who cleared some of the obstacles by carrying them along, who shaped the destination as well as guiding us there. Bobby, I have no idea what size shoe you wear, and in my mind your shoes are much more likely to be white and worn without socks. But your footsteps, I have definitely come to recognize what they look like in some of the places they've explored. Footsteps around the globe, usually surrounded by the footsteps of friends. I wrote a whole novel on the finding and leaving of footsteps, but it seemed like a good theme to revisit on the celebration of 65 years of them. Imagine for a moment if the metaphor was indeed real, and we did leave that soul mark everywhere we went. What a wide, full map that would be. In a way, its own kind of language, which you've developed from year to year, adding new words, some of them proper nouns, some of them improper nouns, with every step. What an adventure to speak such a language. What a pleasure it has always been to hear it. What an honor for us all to learn and to follow the trail of wonders that you've left. So the book referred to, I wrote a whole novel on the finding and leaving of footsteps, is my book, Two Boys Kissing, which, if possible, Bobby was prouder of than I am, and I'm pretty proud of it. He was always very, very clear to me about how proud he was of it. And the fitting thing is that, of course, I wouldn't have written it if I wasn't so proud of him. It's a perfect circle that we see time and time again. The book is written in the voice of a chorus of men of my uncle's generation, looking down at the generation after me, and just sort of looking at everything going on. The book was not written as a eulogy for the chorus or for the men, including my uncle who inspired it, but as a reverie, which seems fitting here. So what I've done is I've actually just taken different passages from the chorus to put into one piece. Again, Bobby heard me read this so many times, so I'm glad to get to do it here. So this is the chorus. You can't know what it is like for us now. You will always be one step behind. Be thankful for that. You can't know what it was like for us then. You will always be one step ahead. Be thankful for that too. Trust us, there is a nearly perfect balance between the past and the future. As we become the distant past, you become a future few of us would have imagined. We are your shadow uncles, your angel godfathers, your mother's or your grandmother's best friend from college, the author of that book you found in the gay section of the library. You know some of our songs. We do not want to haunt you too somberly. We don't want our legacy to be gravitas. You wouldn't want to live your life like that, and you won't want to be remembered like that either. Your mistake would be to find our commonality in our dying. The living part mattered more. We taught you how to dance. It's true. Look at Tariq Johnson on the dance floor. Seriously, look at him. 6 feet 3 inches tall, 180 pounds, all of which can be converted by the right clothes and the right song into a mass of heedless joy. The right hair helps too. He treats his body like it's made of fireworks, each one timed to the beat. Is he dancing alone or dancing with everyone in the room? Here's the secret. It doesn't matter. He traveled for 2 hours to get to the city, and when it's all over, it will take him over 2 hours to get home. But it's worth it. Freedom isn't just about voting and marrying and kissing on the street, although all these things are important. Freedom is also about what you will allow yourself to do. Music isn't much different now from what it was when we hit the dance floor. This means something. We found something universal. We bottled that desire, then released it into the airwaves. The sounds hit your body, and you move. We are in those particles that send you. We are in that music. We wish we could offer you a creation myth, an exact reason why you are the way you are, why when you read this sentence you will know it's about you. But we don't know how it began. We barely understood the time that we knew. We gathered the things we learned, and they don't nearly add up to fill the space of a life. You will miss the taste of Fruit Loops. You will miss the sound of traffic. You will miss your back against his. You will even miss him stealing the sheets. Do not ignore these things. We did not have the internet, but we had a network. We did not have websites, but we had sites where we wove our web. You could see it most in the cities, spots in the park and bookstores where Wilde and Whitman and Baldwin reigned as bastard kings. These were the safe harbors, even when we feared that being too open meant we were opening ourselves up to attack. Our happiness had defiance, and our happiness had fear. Sometimes there was anonymity, and sometimes you were surrounded by friends and friends of friends. Either way, you were connected by your desires, by your defiance, by the simple, complicated fact of who you were. We remember what it was like to meet someone new. We remember what it was like to grant someone possibility. You look out from your own world and then you step into his, not really knowing what you'll find there, but hoping it will be something good. You step into his world and you don't even realize your loneliness is missing. You've left it behind. And you don't notice because you have no desire to turn back to see what's there. You keep your eye on him. We miss the sensations of being tucked in, just as we miss the sensations of being that hovering angel, pulling the blanket over his shoulders, wishing him a sweet night. Those are the beds we want to remember. We wish we could show you the world as it sleeps. Then you'd never have to have any doubt about how similar, how trusting, how astounding, and how vulnerable we all are. We no longer sleep. And because we no longer sleep, we no longer dream. Instead, we watch. We don't want to miss a thing. You have become our dreaming. Waking is hard and waking is glorious. We watch as you stir, then as you stumble out of your beds. We know that gratitude is the last thing on your mind first thing in the morning, but you should be grateful. You've made it to another day. There are conversations you remember for certain, but more than that, there is the sensation of conversation. You will remember that even when the precise words begin to blur. How you gave, how you received, how close you felt to this other person, how remarkable this closeness was. The sharing of the words becomes as important as the words themselves. The sensation stays with you, attaches you to the world. Two boys kissing. You know what this means. For us, it was such a secret gesture, secret because we were afraid, secret because we may have been ashamed, secret because it was a story that nobody was telling. But what power it had. Whether we cloaked it in the guise of you be the boy and I'll be the girl, or whether we defiantly called it by its name, when we kissed, we knew how powerful it was. Our kisses were seismic. When seen by the wrong person, they could destroy us. When shared with the right person, they had the power of confirmation, the force of destiny. If you put enough closets together, you have enough space for a room. If you put enough rooms together, you have space for a house. If you put enough houses together, you have space for a town, then a city, then a nation, then a world. Every time two boys kiss, it opens up the world a little bit more. Your world, the world we left, the world we left you. This is the power of a kiss. It does not have the power to kill you, but it has the power to bring you to life. We watch you, but we can't intervene. We have already done our part, just as you are doing your part, whether you know it or not, whether you mean to or not, whether you want to or not. There is the sudden, there is the eventual, and in between, there is the living. We do not start as dust. We do not end as dust. We make more than dust. That's all we ask of you. Make more than dust. Bobby made so much more than dust. He made a part, small or big, of each and every one of us, and we are not dust. We are here. Like I remember my Papa Louie and my Grandma Alice, I will remember Bobby because to me, remembering Bobby is now a part of being alive. Remembering him is now a part of all of us being alive. Love is never dust, and I thank Bobby for that.
Well, it's standing room only, just the way Bobby planned it. I think he must have paid the people in the back to stand, just so I could say that. Now, I'm going to be asking a few questions because why not? The older you get, the more you realize you're lucky to understand the questions, and the answers elude me and some other folks. So the first question is, would you want to follow these 5 speakers? I mean, come on! And it's wrong. We always had an order of speaking. Alan spoke first, I spoke second, and Bobby spoke third. So I'm speaking in his. Next question. What would Lou do? Well, if you don't know, Lou was our father. And Lou was a character. You can only describe our father as a Damon Runyon-esque New York character. A man of great wisdom, but he was always fair. He believed you must treat everyone with respect, give him the benefit of the doubt, and we all viewed his wisdom as a given. When Bobby was faced with a question that was contentious, he would always go, back to his gold standard, which was, what would Lou do? Now, of course, if he came up with an answer I didn't particularly care for, I would have a tendency to say things like, you know, he's a parent. He wants us to stand on his shoulders and see further than he ever did, so what he would have done wasn't necessarily what I would do. And then, of course, he would say, well, I'm doing what Lou would have done. Okay. So given why we're all here, I need to repeat the question of what would Lou do? Amazingly, I know the answer. Whew. When Bobby was really sick, I had a conversation with my father. And he started talking about everything Bobby had done in his 40 years. And he went on, telling me about the places he'd been, the people he knew, the things he'd done, the lives he'd touched. And I got really angry because I wasn't ready to lose my brother. I then realized the mad genius of our father, that facing the unthinkable, the loss of a child, he could find the good, the optimism, and the lesson for all of us. He could rationalize the unrationalizable. That's what we're doing today. We've discussed, the previous speakers did a better job than I could ever do, about protease inhibitors, pharmacological compounds, the fact that Bobby beat AIDS. Bobby believed he could beat anything, and how much he loved every day. The wonderful and amazing care group, the healing circle, that bears repeating. He was not afraid to die, he just wanted to live. So what would Lou do? He would celebrate life. Bobby's extraordinary life. Bobby told me years ago he didn't expect to see 35, 45, 55. When he was over 55, he figured he'd get 90. He was wrong. But what 65 years he did live. Lou would say, celebrate Bobby's life. Celebrate the life of everyone in this room. Now, Lou's initials are another shared family story. Louis Anderson Levithan. You know how he got Anderson? Well, a few people in the room do. He had a cousin, Louis Levithan. Hard to believe there'd be two Louis Levithans in the United States Army in World War II. There were. So they kept getting each other's mail. My father didn't want his cousin's mail because he was having enough trouble with his girlfriends. His cousin, he didn't want to hear about it. So he decided he needed a middle name. So he came up with Anderson, his mother's maiden name. So my father's initials were L-A-L. Now some of you are well aware, and if you're not, you're about to be well aware, that he turned his initials into the family credo of luck and love. Every letter he sent, he ended luck and love. To sons, to nieces, to nephews, to brothers and sisters, to grandkids. Cousin Jill dumpster dove to get luck and love on an envelope. Every letter he sent to my mother, who was overseas in World War II, and with luck and love Lou. So we paid this forward. Many of us, especially Bobby Allen and I, end our visits, our phone calls, our emails, our letters with luck and love. We know we all need a little more luck and love in our lives. So what would Lou do? He'd tell us to keep Bobby alive and with us by stories, laughter, images of beautiful places and beautiful things. Sunsets and seashores, shared challenges and experiences, precious memories. Oh, Alan and I could tell many cute and endearing stories of Bobby as a child. but we will not. We're here to celebrate the man, not the child. The fighter, the healer, the teacher, the student, the artist, the model, the lover, the friend, the cousin, the uncle, the son, the brother, the great, the grand, the dancer, the muse, the anti-gravity master, the Segway savant, the writer, the reader, the asker, the teller, the brightness, the lightness, the proponent, the opponent, the blogger, the texter, the alpha and the omega, the man in white who led a technicolor life. I like that one. So live life as we're taught. The glass is neither half full nor half empty, it's overflowing. Bobby showed us how to live every day to its fullest. He viewed every day as a gift not to be squandered. He left this world with incredible grace and dignity. He occupied his life with living. Keep Bobby with us in stories, with laughter. He evolved. We evolved. So we've got a new standard. We must all hold ourselves to this new standard. And that new standard is, what would Bobby do?
Thank you for coming. Thank you for helping us celebrate Bobby's life. Thank you for remembering Bobby, as we will. Thank you.